Hey everyone, and welcome back to my channel. Today I want to share with you my December wrap-up. So this is kind of the last video where I talk specifically about my reading of last year, I guess. So we'll wrap up all the books that I have read in December. And when I prepared this video, for a second I thought I did not read a single physical book in this month, but I was mistaken. I found one. So the rest of them I read as ebooks or audiobooks. And I think I will start with the Christmas books to get those out of the way, because I guess people don't really want to talk about Christmas books anymore now. So just in case you're looking for some suggestions you want to write down for next year or something, I will quickly go through the Christmas books and then I will talk about the other books that I read in December. So the first book I actually finished in December was Make You Mine This Christmas by Lizzie Huxley-Jones. I don't quite remember whether I already talked about it in my November wrap-up, because I finished it literally on the 2nd of December, so most of it I had read in November. But in brief, this is a book with a fake dating trope. There is a girl who kind of fake dates a guy she met at a party, but when they go to his family's house, she actually falls for the sister. This was my favorite Christmas book I listened to this year. It was so much fun. It had the gay chaos that you want, and it was just very wholesome. It had the right Christmas vibes. It had like mulled wine and Christmas markets and everything. So it was very festive, it was very fun, quite chaotic, and I really enjoyed the romance as well. So in the end I gave this one 4.5 stars. It also had amazing representation of many different kinds. So yeah, I would highly recommend this book. As I said, it was the best one that I listened to this year. Then the next one I finished was Miracle on Christmas Street by Annie O'Neill. This one is an older book. It did not come out in 2022, but I had it on my backlist and I was just a little bit unsure what I wanted to listen to, so I went with this one. In this one we follow a girl who has just lost her job and her boyfriend broke up with her, so she moves into a new city and her new house is on Christmas Street, and she has a neighbor that kind of organized a whole advent calendar thing with the houses in Christmas Street. So yeah, it follows that, but then we have a grumpy old Mr. Winters who lives in Christmas Street number 24, who doesn't want to partake in all of this, and our main character is trying to convince him otherwise. And this is not a romance per se. There is some romance in it, but it's much more about starting over and just getting your life together and figuring out what is important to you and stuff like that. So more of a like women's fiction kind of book. It actually reminded me a little bit of Cackle, which I read in November, so that was kind of weird. Overall, I gave it 3.5 stars. There was just some bits with the representation about this one that was a little bit off, and then I was also so annoyed by the best friend character because she was very manipulative, and I think she should have been called out for that a lot more. Then the next book I finished was Winter Kisses at Roseford Café by Keenan. This one I quite enjoyed. This is a romance again. In this one we have a couple with one person being a movie star or like a TV series star. So we have this woman who lives in a very small town somewhere in England or something, and she's a single mom, and one day there is a whole film crew coming into town because they are shooting a Christmas movie there, and the main character, love interest person in the movie is actually a kind of teen star, so he was like really famous for a show. It kind of reminded me of High School Musical a little bit, the way it was described, but it had a different name and the character was completely fictional and all, but he's trying to yeah, just do this Christmas movie to see whether he still wants to be in the limelights and stuff like that. And he also has some history with the place where the movie is shot. So they meet and they fall in love. And I realized that these kind of romances with celebrities are probably not the best thing for me, because you have to suspend your belief a lot for these. And it's kind of like almost the kind of like fan fiction-y ideas you had when you were a teen yourself. So I felt a little bit funny about it. But I think that the relationship itself was like really grown up. I really enjoyed the way the characters communicated with each other, especially in the beginning and the middle. Obviously, at the end, you do have the conflict, and that's always the part where I get a little bit annoyed. And it was very easy to see where this one would go. So yeah, but that's just romance for you, I guess. I also wasn't the biggest fan of the way that, some characters were just kind of at the sidelines, and those were gay characters. I felt like they could have been a bigger focus of the book and just give them a little bit of space as well, but they just felt like the sidekicks that have to give the right kind of advice in the right moment. So that was a little bit sad. But yeah, overall I gave it 3.5 stars. It was a very enjoyable Christmassy romance, but as I said, I think just the whole celebrity idea is just not one I like a lot. Then the next book I finished was How to Excavate a Heart by Jake Maia Arlow. Now this one is actually a YA holiday romance, and it also follows Jewish characters. So even though it is set during Christmas, Christmas itself doesn't play a big role in it. And this one I picked up simply because the main character is doing an internship at a lab where they research prehistoric fish. And that just sounded so interesting to me. So I was like, you know what, I'm kind of burning out with the Christmas romances. So let's try this one. It's YA, so it's a little bit different. We have the whole prehistoric fish thing, which is interesting. And it is also a female-female romance. And as I said, with like Jewish characters. So that was quite different from my previous reads as well. So I thought this one would be a good way to refresh kind of my need for the holiday romances. And I actually really enjoyed it. There were some things at the end that I didn't really enjoy so much, but the most of the book was very enjoyable, like a fun rom-com story about two girls falling in love, and they definitely have their issues that they're working through. But yeah, I felt like the ending got a little bit too heavy. It wasn't what I expected, and so it just didn't work that well for me. I wish it would have just gone in a different direction, but overall I gave it 4 stars and I thought it was really quite enjoyable. Then during the holidays I managed a reread of A Christmas Carol by Dickens, so that is something that I try to do every other year, so this year it was time, and I had also just gotten this like very beautiful copy of it, so I was very happy that I managed to squeeze it in right at the end of the year. This is just a book that gives me all the like Christmassy feels. It's just a classic, a story that I have consumed so many times in movie format and also as a book. So I usually give it 4 stars for nostalgia, and it was just nice to go back to this favorite. And then the last Christmas book I listened to is called Christmas in Magnolia, Glen by Catelyn Meadows, and this one I actually did not enjoy at all. This one follows a woman who is very unsatisfied with her life, and so on Christmas Eve the ghost of Christmas past appears to her, and this is supposed to be a romance retelling of A Christmas Carol, but it goes into a very different direction. And so basically very quickly the guy is more of an angel to her, and as a reader it was very easy to see what's going on, like the big twist thing that happens about, I don't know, 2/3 of the way in. It was so easy to see and I just felt like the plot was lacking, and then the whole messaging just felt very wrong to me. It felt like a book that proposes the idea that it's very easy to forgive people for like very bad things if they're hot, and also the main character works through a lot of trauma in 24 hours because he's hot. So yeah, this just did not feel right to me. I gave it 2 stars and I would not recommend this one at all, even though it is a very short one. So those were all of my Christmassy reads, and I'm actually quite happy. I think that was a lot. I don't know if next year maybe I will try to just mix it up a little bit more, because as I said, I felt like I was kind of burning out with the Christmassy or holiday romances, and that's not what I usually read. So we'll see about that. If you have any suggestions what else might be interesting and give just this like cozy holiday feeling without being a romance, maybe, I would really appreciate that. And so for the rest of the time, I finished some more books. I actually read pretty much all of the Diviners series in December. I had started the Diviners in November, but I finished it at the beginning of December, and then I read Lair of Dreams, Before the Devil Breaks You, and The King of Crows. Now I will do a whole separate reading vlog for that, which will be coming in the next couple of weeks. I do have a lot of like wrap-up-y kind of videos I want to do, so we'll see when I throw that in there. But overall, I really enjoyed this series. I was a bit worried because people always say that the ending isn't that great, but I did not have that experience. I binge read the whole series as ebooks, and yeah, I just had a lot of fun. So basically in this series we follow a couple of characters, but at the beginning it feels like our main character is a girl called Evie O'Neill, and she is sent to live with her uncle in New York City in the 1920s because she has caused some trouble in her town, and her parents are kind of annoyed and embarrassed by her, so they send her away. And when she gets to New York, she realizes that the special power she has, which is that she can read objects, so she touches something and then she learns its secrets basically, that she can use this power for maybe good, but maybe just good for her. So in the first book, we have these murders that are happening by someone that is called the Pentacle Killer, and Evie is trying to figure out what's going on there and who's responsible and to stop the murders. And then in the second book, Lair of Dreams, we follow 2 different characters more closely. We follow Henry and Ling. Henry is kind of a hybrid guy, but he decided to leave his family because he's gay and he's not accepted by his father mainly. So he left for New York to just carve out a life of his own where he can live his truth basically. And then Ling is the daughter of an Irish mother and a Chinese father, so she has to deal with a lot of racism. She lives in Chinatown, and at the beginning of the book there appears to be a mysterious sickness. It's kind of a sleeping sickness where people just don't wake up anymore and then they slowly die. And the special ability of Henry and Ling is that they can walk in dreams, so, you know, sleeping, dreaming, it's all kind of connected. So we follow those 2 a little bit closer, but we still get a whole range of other characters as well. And then in the third book, the kind of plot starts to thicken a little bit and it goes more into the direction where the story will eventually end. So I don't want to spoil too much about that because there is a lot of like a mystery involved with that. There is like some government stuff that is a bit odd, and there's also one kind of like super rich guy who is trying to change the world with his inventions, but maybe not for the better, or maybe just for the better of some people and not others. So big themes in this are sexism, racism, homophobia, and eugenics, because Libba Bray really tries to show how eugenics were something very highly valued during that time, because that can be kind of forgotten when you talk about the Roaring Twenties, that it was also a time with like a lot of misogyny and stuff like that, and bigotry. So I think that this series tries to focus on that and yeah, explore that quite a bit. So there were a couple of scenes that were very uncomfortable to read, but as I said, overall I enjoyed the series. I gave The Diviners 4 stars, Lair of Dreams and Before the Devil Breaks You I gave 4.5 stars. The ending of Before the Devil Breaks You was so crazy, and I'm still a little bit mad about it, but it also kind of worked, so oh well. And then The King of Crows I gave 4 stars as well. For me, it did work as an ending, but yeah, I haven't really looked into why people were disappointed by it, so I don't really know. But yeah, that was my reading in December, so it wasn't so bad as it feels, but still I wanted to get to so many more books before the year's over, and I did not, as it happens every year. So I would love to hear what your favorite book in December was. Definitely let me know in the comments, and I will talk to you very, very soon. Bye!